A very good day, and welcome to the Friday sessions on Cobra TV right here on the Cobra Rugby Club Facebook and YouTube page. It's 4 p.m. here in Malaysia, 8 p.m. somewhere in New Zealand, and you are watching us right here as we bring you another round of interview sessions. And we've got someone very special whom I haven't seen for a long time. But first, let's go through the our quick housekeeping. For those of you who don't know, we do have training today. We've got trainings from Tuesdays and Fridays from 5:30 p.m. Of course, with the SOPs in place because we're still under the RMCO. For the Cobrats, Dylan?
I'll just add on after many months, the under 12s and lower are allowed back onto the field, and we had our first session last week, so we'll have another. So we'll continue again this Sunday, but because of SOPs, we've actually staggered the time. So because there's number limitations that can go on the field. So just in case, you can check the Cobrats Facebook page, and some of the information will be there. But essentially, it's 4 to 6 for the under 16s, under 14s, boys and girls, and then for the lower age groups, 12 and 11, under 12, under 11, they start training at 3:30 to 5, and then you transition for 5 to 6:30. The under 10s, 9s will train, and then the sports hall, it's 3:30 to 5 for the under 8s and under 7s. So so SOPs apply. Make sure you get a temperature check. If you're not well, stay home. Parents, you can't join us onto the field. I'm sorry, you have to wait outside.
Oh, I'm sure you're excited to come back on. I mean, obviously, Dylan is the head of the Cobrats Academy, so you've been looking forward to having to coach again. So that's great to see them, the younger kids especially, running around as well.
It's great. It's great. It's I couldn't. I don't know. So Sundays is my coaching. Sundays is one of my highlights for the week. So it was good. It's good to be back and good to catch up all the coaches again. And the kids are very eager to get back into it.
Yeah, we saw some photos that one or two of the members, or rather the Legends players, weren't really wearing their jerseys or at least Cobra attire. We've seen like quite one or two people wearing white socks, but we'll talk about that another time. First and foremost, for those of you who've been to the club or would like to have lunch and you live in the PJ area, we do have a lunch promo. That's the bar, as you know, and the restaurant's run by our former president, Boon Hoon Chi. There's a lunch promo going on since the 20th of July. It's a 10% discount on all food items and a free iced lemon tea with any main. So that's the free iced lemon tea for those of you who don't drink alcohol. And and that's the lunch promo. So 10% discount on all food items. So yeah, from 12 to 2, that's the lunch promo. Do make full use of it. Do take advantage of it. And and do come over to the club and see what it's like, because we're open, I think, 7 days a week.
Except for Sundays.
Except for Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, Sunday's not for lunch, but the bar is open. Correct?
No. They don't open Sundays.
Oh God! No wonder I don't come on Sundays anymore.
But Cobrats, pretty soon as the Cobrats get underway, yeah, they might open the doors.
All right. Okay. As promised, we've got a very special guest on our show. He's been obviously on Malaysian shores long time ago. He's been in and out with various teams and development programs. Let's welcome in the show, Deano Herewini. How are you, mate?
Hey, evening, everyone.
It's very nice to finally see you, because as I said, it's been a long while. You've been in and out. You've been sniping in and out of the country and everywhere else in the world as well. And now finally settled down in New Zealand. So welcome home.
Yeah, it's good to be back in New Zealand. But first of all, well done on your show, gentlemen. And I'm sure you're touching lots of ex-players no longer in KL or up in different parts of the world. So first of all, congratulations for reconnecting all your members again. So good to be on the show.
Thank you very much. Now, obviously, for those of you who don't know who Deano is, you've been quite a big man in obviously in Hong Kong, obviously with Valley RFC as well. But let's start from the beginning. How did you get? I mean, we're not going to ask you, how you started rugby and all that, because that'll be really silly. We'll be here all day. But what made you go overseas? What was the first thing that why did you go overseas?
Yeah, I suppose it's like any rugby player's dream. You get a chance to go overseas to play a bit of rugby, no matter where it is, whether it's in the UK, France, or Malaysia for that matter. Yep. I had an opportunity to go play in Hong Kong, play for the club of Valley. Had a contact with my club back in Cambridge in the Waikato, New Zealand here with a guy called Neil Alton. So I decided why not. It was only going to be for a season, 6 months. And I said, I've never been to Hong Kong. It was an opportunity that any young aspiring player should look at. So I went over, had a bit of a crack at it, enjoyed it so much, never returned.
So we've got a photo here of you in your younger days. What age was this? And
wow,
this photo.
Yeah, that was my gosh, age-wise, that would have been my 3rd year there, playing for Valley. That's the grand final co-captains there. So Roddy McIntosh on the left, Kiwi, Paul Dingley, a South African, and myself beating Hong Kong Football Club in the wet weather at Mongkok Stadium. So I would have been, I would have been close to 30, about 30.
Yeah, because of obviously the black hair and everything, you're a bit younger than then. And then we found this photo. So was this as a flanker?
No, that wasn't me. That's a long story. That one.
Okay, tell me about that one.
That's the Malaysian national team.
Right.
Playing against China in Division 1 final at, crikey, where was it? Out at PJ, some one of the universities anyway. And then that's when I was coaching the national team.
That's what I thought. Now
that is young, I forgot his name, played for Sandakan at the time.
Oh, okay. All right. So Sandakan Eagles before they became Borneo Eagles. Now, obviously, a lot's been documented about Hong Kong, but you had that small stint with in Malaysia. What was your role there, and or rather here?
In Malaysia or Hong Kong?
In Malaysia.
Yeah. So I initially moved there with my my wife's job from Hong Kong to Indonesia, 5 years, and then over to Kuala Lumpur. So I was theoretically a house husband following my wife's career initially, but heard a lot about Malaysia rugby. I've played against various Malaysian club sides, I suppose, within Asia. Yeah. So I wanted to get back into rugby. I wanted to keep up my sort of, I suppose, not so much the playing skill, but more into the coaching. Right. And how did that fit into KL? I didn't really take that opportunity straight away. I thought, let me get myself settled in, meet a few people, get the kids into school, and then try and touch base with a few people, which I eventually did. And that was purely, naturally, somehow, at Sid's Pub. And that's, as the story goes on, you get to meet a few people, lots of people, and then you get invited down to watch a game. And then the history sort of went on from there, if you know what I mean.
That was what, in the 90s?
No, that was my first time in Kuala Lumpur was 2004. 2004.
All right. Okay. So so explain this, because this picture was, with the late Jonah Lomu, and this looks like it was a haka on the padang.
Yes, it was on the padang. Yeah, that's
what
correct.
Was this all about?
Yeah, that was Jonah was in Kuala Lumpur as one of the speakers for one of the rugby dinners, one of the 3 speakers. So at that time, I was running the RSE puppies, the junior rugby equivalent to the Cobrats. And then we just thought, why not, from a historical point of view, get rugby back on the Padang, which has never happened for a very long time. And also by having an iconic player like John Alomu. So he came down and did a rugby clinic, helped out the kids, and signed autographs. He was a great ambassador, as he's always has been, and decided why not do the haka for the kids and do for the parents. And he sort of felt alone that he was the only Kiwi that knew it type of there. So I jumped in and helped him out, and you don't get a chance to do the haka on the Padang, I suppose. So yeah, it was quite a historical little event.
Very much so. We've got Josephine Joseph saying hello, Coach Deano. She's watching the show, and Durak Juliet as well saying hello, Coach. You're going to have a lot of people saying hello, Coach, instead of hello, mate. I think a lot of them are a lot younger than we are, right?
Well, funny enough, that it was just a common theme in Malaysia. Is every time I went somewhere outside of the rugby, all the Malays and all my friends that I met would go, "Hello, Coach." Hello, Coach, and it was and I felt that quite humble. I suppose it felt like they put that type of person up on a pedestal as probably like it felt like a bit of an honor, I suppose. I mean, they knew my first name, but they just treated me, "Hi, Coach." They just treated me as I'm the coach, it felt very, very humbling.
Yes, that's true. All right. So what was apart from playing with Kia saying hello as well. Cheer, Dad. We'll talk about talk about that a bit. Yeah. We'll talk about that a bit later. Now, in terms of your role once you got into the thing, you said you were doing a lot of the development, especially with the young kids. But in your time in Malaysia, in terms of rugby and rugby development, what do you think, one, the talent, and two, improvements during that time?
One of the key things is my ambition was never to go into a new country to try and change what's currently been happening. My ambition was moving to different countries and then finding new friends again. And the only way you could ever do that is go through a rugby club, and you become an instant family all over again. Now, once I got on there, this was with Royal Selangor Club, very expatriate club, of course. The Dogs, Mike Lai, Raimi, and there was a lot of Bulan, and the list goes on and on with all the local boys. And then my interest sort of came about the local scene, and how much talent there was out there, pure talent, just very talent that if you grasp them well enough, these young potential players can go places, if that's fair to say. Right. So I sat down, and one of my roles in Hong Kong was working with the, at that time, IRB, World Rugby, Jared Gallagher, and he did some work in Malaysia as well from a World Rugby education point of view. So I had a chat with the MRU and just said, how can I help with coach education, maybe some specific trainings and so forth, and they were very willing to get me on board, type of thing, and when I was available. So how was the difference between then and now? What did I see? Malaysian rugby, to me at that time, and I'm not too sure about now, but it evolved a lot around playing what the Fijians did. Most clubs in the top tier had multiple Fijian players. And it was class. When teams were on fire, the Fijians were on fire, the rest of the team were just hard to stop. It was a common theme throughout Malaysia, top level rugby. The only downfall that I saw was soon as you took out one or two of the key players, like the Fijians, who, to be fair, a lot of the teams relied on the Fijians to exploit that flair, if you know what I mean?
Yep.
And you took that away from them. The Malaysians, I suppose, would still fight a good battle, but they wouldn't have the structural side of things. They wouldn't know how to, they'll try hard to get out of situations, but probably make it even harder. So it was more like a structural concept, if you know what I mean. So then I decided, I got approached by KH Tan, Kumar Tan, Vela, to come over to Borneo and Sandakan to help them with the NICC team.
Yeah.
So I went over there and sort of helped them prep for that and right throughout the campaign. They hadn't won the NICC at all. But how did we win it? We were fortunate enough to win the NICC in our first year in the final against, could have been Cobra or Negri Sembilan. Now, what I put into place was just some probably simple structures, a little bit more ownership on specific roles and positions, game management type of thing. And then that's probably what got us through, I suppose. To be fair to say, there was no difference in terms of manpower, skills, physicality. It was purely down about playing sensible rugby, playing, clever rugby against, how do you eliminate the Fijian strike power by doing this type of thing. So that led on to the next part where I got tapped in, and I think KH Tan once again was involved with the Malaysian national side, and they probably saw evidence of what maybe Sandakan and Borneo had done under myself, and then brought me into the national program to run the national team for that Division 1 campaign. We were lucky enough to win that against China in the final for promotion. So, really good. Just athletes, I suppose, in Malaysia. Great athletes, great ball skills. But probably, to be honest, just needed structural purposes within the game.
Right. I mean, you're very much in terms of developing, especially in international, national rugby. You've been very much a part of that. So you were saying, Dylan, sorry.
I just want to touch on there when you say game management and structure. I suppose I'm just curious whether that game structure and management, whether in a sense that the whole team, every individual player, that structure where everybody knows what each other is doing, and then where you have to make sure they dial into it and on the same page. Whereas other teams may not have that kind of structure where all guys are in. There'll be some, because it's too dependent on a few talismans in the game. And then once you take that talisman out, there goes, they're still a good team, but they lack that edge in the game. So whereas if you have a good structure with all your players, then, there's something to fall back on. Is that how it works? I'm just curious.
Yeah, 100%. You hit the nail on the head there. Now, you take out one talisman, you bring in another. If say Cobra decided they've got their sort of structural game management process, you've got a squad of 22 players. You brought in you can transfer any of the substitutes on out of the 7 or 8 substitutes. You will still maintain what you've out to achieve, if you know what I mean. Because the simple structure is within your profile. The profile meaning how do you want your team to play. Now, everyone buys into it, becomes a very simple structure. Now, one of the things that I use is, and it was purely more of a learning thing I did in Malaysia, was a lot of coaches will use quite a bit of dialogue. Now, dialogue meaning I would spend nearly 3 minutes to explain how to tackle, where I could come in and use 2 words and broke it down. So that means moving forward, the learners, like my players, I would use 1 word, which would mean the whole 3-minute story, if you know what I mean. So I've broken my details. So that became a learning thing for the teams I had in Malaysia. I simplified it to create maximum outcome, if you know what I mean. So yes, what you're saying is structural, but as long as everyone brought into it, made it simple, and everyone knew rugby is not a complicated game. Rugby is not a complicated game at all.
Right. I mean, quickly before I go into the comments, was it because a lot of coaches or that come into the country, the first thing the one big barrier was the culture thing. Do you think it helped because you were Kiwi? Is it something there was some sort of I wouldn't say semblance to Asia, but that you were able to translate those kind of instructions
level
to
of
the
affinity.
Yeah.
And once again, yeah, I mean, Malaysia's got all these states, and it is such a strong rivalry, even outside of sport. And once you bring them all together under the one umbrella, there's still some sort of conflict of interest, or how quickly you get these people to bond. How quickly do you get them all together? Excuse me. The Fijians, for an example, and I use the Fijians, they're a very common factor in Malaysia, is they play on flair and the class. They're absolutely brilliant players globally. Sometimes, and I'm only being honest here, they wouldn't probably do the extra yards in terms of where sometimes the Malaysians have to work harder to try and get them up to where they are. So what we're trying to do is build everything on the same page here in terms of your culture. Now, does it have to be the Fijians pray a lot? Now, we brought the Malaysians came in and we said prayer time collectively together. They sang songs, we drank kava. The team came in and accepted that and started doing the same things as them. It started to build a little bit of a big culture, I suppose, setting them some goals, setting them some outcomes, some realistic goals, made them wanting to achieve and aspire. So once again, just simplified everything, made targets for them easy to achieve, and they became very energetic, so the culture creating was important, and it was important to the success at the time I was in Malaysia itself.
We've got some comments coming in. There's Simon Pyle who said, "Good to see you again, Piley in the UK." So he's got him over there. Alex, big Alex Tan said, "Hey Deano, I still recall that you whacked me in the game in Hong Kong all those years ago. Still haven't got you back."
Hey, and he was the policeman at the time too.
Phil, hey Deano, ice cream is ready, and also said dishes are waiting.
What? What's going on?
See, that's what it's like being back in New Zealand.
Yeah. So Stuart saying looking good, and he also said, Deano, you also help out my son's school rugby at Garden International School.
Yes.
And
it is. I mean, we've all been there. Everyone's been there. It's like we can't say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rugby is a passion, and say, hey, Deano, can you come and help down for my under fives? I mean, I don't have kids in under five, but I was 100%. I'll come down and help them out. I've come back to New Zealand, and both of my girls are overseas. My oldest one's back in New Zealand, and Kia's in Loughborough in the UK. But someone said, can you come down and help the under 14s? I've got no kids in there, and I'm running the under 14 team. So what Stuart said is, you either got a passion for it, it's in your blood. It's there. You just want to make sure that you help people thrive and get better and help. Me, I love seeing that. I love seeing people get out there and give it a crack and succeed. Or happy little Johnny walks away with his pie and a can of Coke after a game of rugby and can't wait to come back again. That's what inspires me. So I'll go down. I'll never say no. I always go to help anyone.
There's two gentlemen just comment. Jeff, Mr. Sid himself, Jeff Siddle, saying "Cuz brew," and Nazar. So all these big guys saying hello now. Nazar,
hey, Jeff,
saying, "How are you, Deano?" No,
it's good to see these names popping them back in. It's see, this is what you've created in this TV show of yours, mate.
Right, quick. The question, something I should have asked much earlier. Was it something natural? Moving on from playing to coaching, or was it something that you've had to really think about before getting into it?
No, there was no thought process in it at all. And I suppose I probably touched a little bit on it. In New Zealand, it was embedded in your system. You know, you're 5 years old, and you were playing. You were throwing a ball around. You know, as soon as you were born, you didn't get a cuddly toy. Well, you know, you didn't get a cuddly toy at the hospital. You got a little rugby ball. So rugby was just part of your life, part of your history, part of your whānau, we call it in New Zealand, family. So when you got to the point you couldn't play anymore, for whatever reasons, you know, you said, right, you know, I've achieved all my goals. No, I've got multiple injuries. I can't play anymore, but I still want to be involved. So that transition was always going to happen with me anyway. And I took the route of going coaching. I could have gone on the route and been the kit man, you know, but still involved with rugby. I could have gone and been the team manager and organising the bus and the jerseys every Saturday. But I took coaching, and one of the most pleasing things, and I'm still full-time coaching to this day back in New Zealand. So, yeah, it's an easy choice, mate.
All right. Okay.
Was
So,
it easy? Sorry, we're just gonna. Was it easy to settle back in after so long away? How was it like just to come back and settle in?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been away 25 years and been involved with rugby the whole time in various countries, and had special moments, you know, as we've touched on already here for Malaysia and Indonesia and Hong Kong. But coming home, grassroots, back in New Zealand, everyone's pretty much doing the same job, driving the same car, but still involved with the grassroots rugby. The rugby club's still the same. There's still people on the committee. But the good thing here is in New Zealand, being very luckily, we were able to play rugby in New Zealand and other countries, unlucky enough because of COVID, have not had that luxury whatsoever. So the transition back here was been outstanding. Live rugby, kids rugby, the whole lot. So, you know, just love it.
So let's talk about the 25 years abroad, especially Hong Kong. You're pretty much called a legend in Hong Kong, especially with the development of rugby and having a lot more locals getting into the game. And also, obviously, with your role in Penguin Rugby as well, that's been quite well documented. Yourself and of course another name that's synonymous with Cobra Tens and Penguin is Craig Brown. You and Craig Brown has been around, you know, with Penguin Rugby for the longest time, and we've had obviously local guys, people like Jude who's been involved in it, Suzanne who's been involved with Penguin Rugby for a long time as well. How did Penguin Rugby became part of your thing, and was it good to have someone like HSBC, a big sponsor, being part of rugby development, especially in Hong Kong at the time? Tell us your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was one tournament, can't remember, it was Bangkok, I think it was, and I bumped into Brownie. And long story, Brownie and I went to the same primary school here in New Zealand, so we played rugby together, and we went to school together. So, and when
so how come he looks? How come he looks younger than you?
Yeah, yeah. He didn't put his head in the scrum as much. I gather. Good old Brownie. So I hadn't seen each other since we basically left primary school until some random tournament around Asia, and heard I was in Hong Kong, and he said, "Hey, would you be keen to come and get involved and come on a tour or do some coaching?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" Never heard of the Penguins at that time, you know, and said, "Oh, it's a UK-based team," and I'm going, "Oh, okay." I'm still a little bit wary about it. Or what? Are we going to London or whatever else? And then once you sort of got involved with your first Penguins tour, there is a saying: once you're a Penguin, you're always a Penguin. And Cobra can honestly put the hat on their shoulders and say they've contributed massively within that Penguins regime or programs that they run. You know, it's not anybody gets a chance to tour with the Penguins. I mean, they do academy stuff with kids, orphanages, but and travel the world like any other teams, and meet so many players. You'd never play in the same team every tournament because there's a new person coming. You're meeting someone new from South Africa, Zimbabwe. List goes on, and including players from Cobra have also donned the colours with Penguins as well. But it's saying that it's going to cost money to run these sort of things. HSBC's been involved for at least 10 years, if not 20 years of sponsorship. Massive, absolutely massive, as you could probably well know.
Yeah.
There used to be the Cobra HSBC Cobra 10s tournament,
Right.
and a big brand globally. So we're very fortunate to have a company like HSBC. Their policy or their belief was grassroots. They wanted to give back as much as long as the Penguins were purely about grassroots developing rugby within places like third world countries out there, Mozambique, Zimbabwe. We've been to so many places. I'm not too sure there's any places that the Penguins have never been. But one of the biggest ones is Cobra Rugby would probably the biggest on their program. It's something that would always try and continue.
Right, and obviously, I'm trying to figure out what this picture was all about, because there's a lot of RSC guys in it. There's got Gary Kane in here. Was this another coaching program? Because you got Aflil, Suzanne.
Yeah, it was actually. You got Tom Brown, Dr. Tom Brown. He's on the left of the blue polo shirt. Gene Tong is can't remember. He's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And then myself. So we were the three World Rugby educators at the time, running a level 2 coaching course. It was.
Right.
So that was sponsored by Gary Kane and 360. Thanks, Gary, if you're watching, for your sponsorship on that course. So we open it up to coaches within Cobra, to NS Wanderers, and we highlighted it to coaches who want to aspire to go further in their career, if you know what I mean. So it was probably maybe an elite. Well, I don't think it was elite, but yeah, there was one of the coaching courses that were held outside the Garden International School. So one of the success things that was sort of implemented in KL and still continued.
Right.
Gary and Jean, Gary and Jean are still. They're still doing rugby. They're still educators in rugby.
Yes, especially Gary.
Great work, bro. I had the opportunity to do my L2 course with under Gary and Jean.
Yep. No, I mean it's a very rewarding. Just another tool you can get, and for me to do that. Just watching people progress, watching coaches thrive, asking questions. Coaches in general are sponges. They just can't get enough. They're always asking questions, and that sort of stuff that was just seen there was exactly that. It was like you learn so much just having a beer with someone at a pub, talking rugby, purely more than sitting in front of a projector for the whole day. That's how I look at it.
That's exactly. I follow that sentiment. Now, Stuart said, Deano, I first met you when you played for Hong Kong in the Cobra 10s when Craig Wooten was your manager. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, we brought the Hong Kong 10s over, and a guy called Wooden Maori guy, playing in Hong Kong, New Zealand Māori. So him and I were the coaches or the team.
Okay. Right.
And then day one, we've had a few injuries. We've actually had quite a few injuries. So both coaches, including myself and the other coach, we had to play day 2. And lucky enough, we were still playing. We were still playing Premiership rugby in Hong Kong, but our job was to coach this team for this particular tournament. It was tough. I don't know how far we got, but it was great. It was, running around at PJ Stadium, hot after 5 minutes, and then it became a freaking typhoon, and then became a freaking little
mud bath.
Mud bath, and then it got hot again, and then beers in between games, and we're supposed to bring this team here for development in terms of progression within the national setup.
Yeah,
no, that didn't last long on day 2. Out come the beers. Craig Wooten, for his antics, and he loved the beer, as some of the viewers will probably know. So yeah, that was probably one of the first times Hong Kong's been down there, and it was very, very, very memorable at that time. And that was probably one of my first touches of rugby in Malaysia, and my first Cobra teams, and it wasn't my last.
Now you know you're on a roll when Doc Ernest says best wishes from Doc. He's actually watching the show as well.
Hey, Doc. Hi, buddy.
And,
good names.
Yeah, no, Safa, Uncle Safa says hi, Dino, warmest greetings. And Naza says Dino's got more grey hair.
I have, Naza. At least I've still got hair. I'm still here. But it's just gone a little bit. I've been painting the house white.
Fortunately, Naza still has hair as well, so you guys can fight about that. Now,
so, gentlemen, I've got a question for you. Of course, just throw it back at you, and I'm sure our viewers will know. Now, we've talked a lot of development over the time, and back in my time, 2004, and I was there for 8 years in Kuala Lumpur. That's quite a long stint for anyone, I suppose, from an expat point of view. But how much of a change have you seen rugby? You guys, I mean, let's just talk about Cobra, I suppose. When I was there, Cobra was renowned as the team. They had a club rooms. You guys were renowned because you had this club rooms that was just pumping 7 days a week. I walked in there and it was just like a nightclub of just packed. And it wasn't rugby supporters. It was just anyone around PJ who just came down for a beer and had a great time. It was always an inviting environment. And I went in there and Boon Hon Shea coming, he was giving us a couple of jugs. It was such a welcoming clubhouse environment that Cobra had. And that then also related to how strong you were on the field. You had multiple teams playing for Cobra. You had a very successful era back then. What is it like now?
Right. Before I answer that question, we're going to take a quick break. We got the merchandise. You see what I'm doing there? That's why I'm the host. All right. We got a quick merchandise promo for you guys. We'll be back right after this. Cobra merchandise promo.
You can see that I'm wearing one of the t-shirts right now. This is the 3D snake. Okay, this is what we have in adult sizes and kid sizes as well. And here we have the Japan edition, World Cup Rugby for the Cobra Club. And we have this in black as well. And this is the back part of the t-shirt. It says passion for rugby in Japanese. Okay, this is a really cool one. Okay, and then next, so this is the black one. So this is the black one. Okay, next is, this is the attack t-shirt. This is the female one. Okay, this comes in yellow and black. Okay, white, sorry. And this is the male one. Okay, this one also comes in white and yellow, right? Next is our 3D snake in yellow, what I'm wearing now, but this is in yellow. This is the last one, which is the Gila Stress t-shirt. So we also have a few items from Canterbury. Okay, this is the original Canterbury shorts, but we've personalized it to have our Cobra logo here on the shorts, on the jersey t-shirts. Okay, we also have in singlets and in polo shirts. Okay, what we also have this is the snakelet drawstring bag. Okay, so this is very convenient for the Cobrats, all right, for the kids in the Cobrats. So all of you can get our merchandise, our t-shirts from our Facebook page. Just inquire for our Facebook page, or you can write to us at cobrarcwebsite@gmail.com.
Cobra merchandise promo. There you go. That was the Cobra merchandise promo. Don't forget to, you can always go to our Facebook page, or you can obviously email us at cobrarc@gmail.com. Gave us enough time to think. Since the vice president is here, he'll give you the answer first.
I knew the ball was going to be thrown to me, right?
I'm a scrum half. How is possible?
All right. If we're talking about the club life after training in the clubhouse, I would summarize most of the guys got old, they got married, and family life dictated what they do after hours. So it's not as pumping as it's not as pumping as it used to be.
I think in terms of the rugby side, what's happened because of the success with our teams in the past, what it did was it was spilled over to the other teams in terms of playing. We've had players who are now coaches. We've got people like Lomu who now, quite a few of our players who are now coaching the teams, the various other teams, and also in the national setup. So the fact that we sort of suffered as a club or as a team has benefited rugby as a whole in terms of development in Malaysia. So yes, that was the kind of sacrifice that we endured because of the success on the field translated to more success in rugby generally in the country, and in some ways is why the national team has done well, because we had that attitude and everyone wanted to emulate that, or teams wanted to hate us for that, but in the long run our players became the coaches, and I suppose in some ways had that kind of attitude and gave that to the other teams. That's how I saw it especially from the outside.
It's a case that when Rat says success, is that in any club or any organization or business, you run a successful program, then people start emulating it and understand and then as within your personnel, as they grow, sometimes they reach a level, like you said, they can't play forever. So then they want to test the waters elsewhere and see whether they can run it elsewhere. And a lot of our players have done that. And at the same time, we kind of, I wouldn't say shot ourselves in the foot, because we ran a lot of clinics. We ran academies, clinics, coached the coaches. So a lot of them have learned from us. So basically, you would say they applied the same passion that we did into the level of passion into the game, and pretty much you could say the quality and the number of players and teams have just grown in the last 10 years. I'll cite one simple example. When we started, so much so that our junior rugby program, we started in 2013 with pretty much 10 kids. Now, 2020, we've got almost 400 kids within our junior program. And that's just us. We're not the only junior program in the country. And when we run our tournaments down south in Johor, some of the teams that come play, they pretty much they come to win pretty much, and they're like 9 years old, 10 years old. So it's so to keep up with all of that, it's you could say we had, like Rat, I would echo Rat in saying that we're not as renowned, we're not as successful as we used to be in terms of results, but you could say we were quite successful in making sure everybody around us was just as good, if not better.
Yeah. So good.
And one of the things, I suppose, gentlemen, you've emulated all these programs, you've emulated a standard back in the days. You've provided coaching clinics and courses and camps, and I remember those. But Malaysia Rugby has benefited from it, and that's credit due to the good work that Cobra has done. Now, of course, you're probably saying right now we're not as powerful to a degree, but you're looking at the future of Cobra, and you've got what, from 10 kids in 2013 to 400 kids now. That's outstanding, So there's your next legacy, I suppose. Is that what you're drawing yourselves towards? The next legacy coming through these Cobrats?
Pretty much. Pretty much. That's pretty much the goal. It's one thing where when we did the show, one thing consistent, there's a lot of good takeaways when you get involved with rugby. When we talk about all the guys that we had hosted, there's one thing consistent is that like you mentioned it earlier, you come into an instant family, the rugby culture or the club culture. So it's one of those, for me, it's one of those motivations to continue that and have these kids come into that as well, and they benefit the club and benefit the communities, and they just become better people all around. I think that sometimes it basically becomes, for me, to a certain degree, rugby is great, but it become a great vehicle to just have great overall human beings.
100%. And one of the things is, do you find, and I notice it everywhere I've gone, junior rugby, let's say junior rugby under the age of 13 below, they create somehow this cutting edge over the senior aspect of the club. And I'm not saying Cobra is similar or not. And what I'm talking about is how many volunteers get involved with junior sport. How much more sponsorship comes in via junior sport? Are you seeing that with Cobra and Cobrats type of thing, or is it just even all across the park?
I'm glad you're asking him because he's the head of Cobra.
Yeah.
So
I was about to ask you that question actually.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you, in your experience with Valley, and how Valley has able to sustain itself over the years. But I would say it's easier to get sponsorship in the junior rugby than the senior teams. But I think in general it's all about development, all about growth. But I think when I see sponsorship, it's not just sponsorship in terms of money from corporations or companies, but like when you say the volunteerism, I look at it as the amount of time which we have parents or some of our coaches don't even have their kids, but because they have passion for the club, they put in their time in as well. And for me, I would call those valuable sponsorship, because those are what I call intangible sponsorship, which you can't. There's no way of quantifying that value. Because you're basically coming in just for
100%.
Just for the sake of the kids. And in turn,
one of the things is what you guys will have in Cobra, and what we had in Valley, a lot of the parents and dads, especially, who are your volunteer coaches. You've got, say, Tom, for an example, coaching your under nines, but he's in charge of KLBT, whatever, the biggest Malaysian company. He is the top dog of the biggest company, but he's coaching your under nines. And that's what I find, and you'd never think that, and they just love the environment because of what we set up. I'm talking the three of us, plus your committee, plus your coaching staff. You've created an environment that these dads or parents, they use it as getting away from business, and they thrive on that. And then they just turn around and say, wow, I love what you're doing here. What can I give? How can I get involved? And then it starts becoming a ripple effect, and everyone wants to climb on board. You guys are, I can gather you're just going to see the benefits within the next so many years. You up to 400 kids already.
The good thing is, just from a kid's perspective, when they start rugby at this age, of course they'll get, they're by the time they reach 18, they're pretty much 12 years under the belt of rugby experience. I think Rashid can relate to that. He started rugby at 9 years old, Rashid?
9, yeah. 9 years old.
And you're still trying to pass, Rashid?
Yeah, still trying to pass.
Good man. Keep it up, buddy.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
It's so in a sense, well, I would say I was going to go to the point that the kids, they also, because one thing I saw that when they go out, they meet the kids they play against, and it becomes a whole community for them as well. It becomes a great. It's so much. I just find it great that these kids, how you call it, they play for their schools or for their states or for their clubs, and then pretty much when they go up, if they end up at a national level and all that, so you see all these kids from different clubs getting together. So it's I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to see how it all turns out, because they're making the relationships they form now. It's going to benefit them in the future, and I think just benefit everybody else overall.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
No,
so
I just wanted to remind you, Deano, about you were talking about those nights where at the club where there was so many people and all that. Can you remember any of those nights?
Yeah, and I remember a lot of them too. They've been long, and I remember just going in there for a quick beer after a game, and then I was going to head on home. I was going to do the old smoke bomb out of there. That smoke bomb never happened because I never got a chance. I could never leave. You try to go one exit and you got caught, and you just got dragged back in again. And that's what Cobra Rugby did to you. It's in the nicest way, and you'd be foolish not to stay, if you know what I mean. It was such a great, you knew you were going to have a great time there, and I've always had. And the bit I liked about Cobra, in terms of the hosting, they did it well. They're probably one of the best clubs that I've seen in Malaysia and in Asia in terms of that. For what you have, the facilities you got, they did it well. Some great nights. It was started inside, then it went outside, then the car park, and back inside. And no matter where you went, there were people everywhere drinking, laughing, makan, the whole shebang. It was great. So well done to Cobra.
Because funnily you mentioned that. Whenever there was other Kiwis in here, I just happened to have this photo in here. The tale of the three Kiwis. So it's like Mark Hopkins and Brendan Oliver. And I remember you guys were trying to do the haka. Luckily that the thing has covered your your best bits. So there are more.
I think I jumped in the back and watched the white fellas do it first, see how they went on.
There were other photos, but they're just bit too
risque.
Bit too revealing for that. So, but yeah, that was quite funny.
I've always wondered who was in that photo.
You wanted me to do a retake?
Oh yeah, this one. You have a look.
Class, legends. That probably was about that had to be something like about 1 o'clock in the morning. That had to be after midnight.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of people there, and you guys were doing the haka.
mate, it was so funny. As and back then, and even now, even in this rugby environment, you didn't really, you didn't hesitate to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you suffered the consequences come Monday.
Yes.
Oh yeah. They'll come and bite you on the bum come on a Monday.
All right. Before we go off, obviously you're back in New Zealand. You've carried on the work with training with kids, especially the ladies team. I happened to get this on to help you promote this. Tell us what's happening this tomorrow on the 12th at 1:30 p.m.
It's just an initiative. As we all know, women's rugby is a growing sport. It's rapidly growing massively in the world. And I came back home and the club never had. So that was my old club and still my current club now, Hotapu. Never had a women's team for a long, long time. So I decided take it by the horns and get a team going. So we started out 3 weeks ago. We played our first tournament 2 weeks ago. So got 20 odd girls coming to training. So it's been really fantastic. Massive eye opener, but people are looking forward and liking the changes that I'm implementing. And to be honest, what I'm implementing here is all down to what I learned in Asia. I mean, to be honest, to all the viewers and all my friends out there that are still great friends, I've learned my trade the best times being in Asia. Whether it's Indonesia, Malaysia, or Hong Kong, I would never do what I did back in New Zealand now if I didn't have that experience. So thanks to everyone out there who's helped me get to where I am.
And you got one of your daughters involved as well in the women's team, and
Yep,
I remember seeing I was watching one of the live shows, and she was made captain. How was that then?
Funny enough, long story. I'll try and get through quickly on this one. So, my Jordan, so she's 25. She's back in New Zealand, lived in London for about nearly 2.5 years. Never played rugby in her life, but she started to come to this women's rugby because she said dad's dragging her along and potentially she's going to get some free kit. So she's still got the Herewini jeans about the free stash. So she's come along, but my oldest one has been playing top level rugby in the UK, and she's 21, Kia. And she's always, been the rugby, follow her dad's footsteps, and Malaysia being the ball girl and flag bearer and all that type of thing. So when my daughter was sort of named captain, and that was purely more a bit of a fun thing, and then she got player of the year without playing a game. And then, funny enough, the Waikato women's Mitre 10 Cup team, Farah Cup team in New Zealand, who I know, rang me and said, "Hey, Deano, what position does your daughter play?" And long story cut short, they wanted her into the Waikato Farah Cup women's team. And I said, "You've got the wrong daughter. My daughter will run away from tackle.
Yeah,
it's the youngest one in the UK that you're wanting." So yeah, mate, it's just great to be back here. My girls love it. I'm glad they're involved with the game, and one happy dad.
Oh, that's great. And you yourself are just how's it been trying to settle down now that just apart from the rugby itself?
Mate, to be honest, I literally had about a couple of weeks off, and I've been literally full on. I've been full on freaking rugby the whole time since I've been back. And I'm on the committee at the rugby club. Sort out their social media, their apparel tenders, going into a new role with the club, and so forth. Initiating a lot of things, coaching the local high school team under 14s. And I must say, people, gone through unbeaten, top of the table, semi-finals tomorrow. So I'm not sure if it's just me or whatever else, but I'm ripping into these young kids. They love it. So yeah, it's just been rugby, to be honest. So it's just like being back in Hong Kong. It's just more grass, more rugby on. I got a bigger bedroom, bigger house here than a little shoebox and Happy Valley in Hong Kong.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
So Gary Kane's just come on board.
Hey Gary,
we miss you, Deano. And Duncan Wong. Duncan Wong, so he's in Australia.
Duncan Wong.
Young Duncan's in Australia, lives in Australia right now as well.
Oh, there's some good names coming up on the show tonight, gentlemen.
Thanks to you. Yeah, you probably raised a lot of memories, and they're probably hoping Rashid doesn't have pictures of it as well.
Yeah, I know. That's the bit I'm worried about. Rashid's going to bring some. Whoa. Hey, you'll cut me off.
That's why I just put one on, because just as a teaser for next time.
Yeah. Good work.
Anyway, we've come towards the end of the show, but thank you very much, Deano, for joining us on the show. It's been really, really great to have you with us on Cobra TV, especially for this Friday session, sir. And it's so thankful that you've been also following us these past few months as well. But wish you all the best for the women's rugby and settling down. I hope you don't have to do the dishes as well.
The ice cream is
gentlemen,
waiting.
All the best, and mate, keep up the great work. You guys are doing a fantastic job over there, keep Malaysia strong. Brilliant. I'll keep watching you, and hi to everyone else.
All right, for those of you out there. Yeah, for those of you out there, don't forget to go to training. We got training at 5:30 today. But for the rest of you, have a great weekend. And this is Cobra TV Friday Sessions. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.